You're listening to SuperPower Mommas on the SuperPower Up podcast, the show that embraces the art of soulful parenting.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SuperPower Mommas. I'm Laura Greco, your host, and I'm so excited to be talking with you today. Our topic is, what does entrepreneur mean as a mama? And we have a mama with us, Anna Nummy, who is the owner of Align Local. Anna started out actually as a undergraduate for biochemistry and biotechnology. And interestingly, after 12 years of being in that sector, she has shifted to helping entrepreneurs market their businesses. So I'm excited to introduce Anna for a couple of different reasons. I know her personally, through our conversations online, but also what's interesting to me is that she is a mama of two boys, and she has a business, and she's made such a shift. And I think she has some great things that she'll be sharing with us about entrepreneur and what entrepreneur means as a mama. So welcome, Anna.
Thank you so much, Laura, for having me. It is such a pleasure to be here. I appreciate you so much for this opportunity. Share my story and all of that. So thank you.
Yeah, well, we're so excited to hear from your story because I think we learn so much from each other in life, right? And that's why we listen to podcasts, right?
Absolutely. I completely 100% agree, because if it wasn't for my tribe and my community, I probably would have gotten where I am now, just maybe not as quickly.
Well, we have a question, of course, that we always start our show off with, and that is, what is your superpower mama, or your mama superpower? So what's your superpower?
Yeah, well, I would say I thought about this a lot. And in some ways, it sounds funny to say hard to pick one, because when I think about myself as a mom, I'm sort of inseparable from my entrepreneur life, Mm-hmm. And that was the challenge. It's like, what's my mama superpower as opposed to my entrepreneur superpower? And I really don't think they're different. And I would say that for me, it's having a growth mindset. And I'm a person who has a lot of grit.
Uh-huh.
So that sort of combination of the growth mindset and the willingness to do the things and to stick them out. And I think that has this beautiful importance in both parenthood and entrepreneurship. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you know what's really cool about that? So I love that, that mindset of growth. Mm-hmm. Having that is just amazing, in the fact that without growth, where are we going? Why are we here? Right.
Right. Yeah. If you're not growing, you're dying. I didn't say it first. Someone did, but yeah, that quote comes to mind.
Yeah, but that's the truth. Right. So, and I come from the standpoint of, you're a woman first, then you're wear your hats, your business, your parenting, your, whatever else, your daughter, you're a wife, so forth. Mm-hmm. But you're a woman first. And so it makes total sense that to separate it out is just that doesn't make sense, actually. So very cool. So in this mindset of having a growth, that growth mindset, Anna, how do you feel that assists your children?
Oh, man. Well, it's interesting because my husband and I, we had our oldest son, Ian, is about 4, and Abraham's 20 months. And we did not realize, in some ways, like you care so much for your kids as a parent. You would do anything for them, right? But we ended up finding ourselves assisting too much, doing things in service too much. And we didn't even realize we were doing it. For us, we were thinking we were helping, but really we ended up understanding that what we're doing is, like, I don't want to say retarding the growth of our child, because that's a little extreme, but maybe, hampering that independence. And so once we kind of realized we were doing that, we're like, oh yeah, wake up call, right? And you know, for kids, what this looks like is I can do this. I can pick my own clothes, even if they don't match. I can put my shoes on. I can put my socks on, you know, little things like that. And so what I've noticed with my oldest is he'll have these scenarios where he's like, I can't do this, you know, and it's totally normal, of course, right? But what I remind him is say, you can do it, and it's okay to be frustrated. Let's find a new way, or let's try this, or let's do some teamwork to do this together, even though he's completely capable of putting on socks or whatever, you know. And so just trying to verbalize that growth mindset is as opposed to I can't do this, but okay, well, let's try another way, you know. And that's only something that's, you know, it wasn't totally in my awareness totally as a parent until we were experiencing some of this stuff with our oldest. So he gets to be the test subject as usual.
Well, as usual, I'm the oldest in my family too, so totally get that. But I love this. I love what you're sharing here, because empowering our children to trust themselves and to be able to trust our children, it takes a lot of growth mindset, right?
Yeah. And just awareness, because I really don't think that we felt like we were doing anything to hinder him. But at the same time, when we were he didn't seem very interested in picking his clothes or whatever. So we would just do it for him, you know? But enabling them to do things like that grows their confidence, and in ways that as parents that are, you know, we don't necessarily maybe not realize right away, but that are so important. I mean, if you don't want your kid to be one of the kids that does the Tide Pod challenge, you know, it's important to establish that inner confidence from a young age and letting them fail. So.
And how do you feel that intertwines now with or assists you in your deciding to be an entrepreneur from home?
Yeah.
How does that work in?
Yeah, big time. I think that I had some, undulated between maybe a growth mindset and a fixed mindset in certain areas of my life. So a fixed mindset would be like, oh, well, if I failed at this, then I sucked, right? Whereas a growth mindset would be, okay, well, what could I do different next time? What can I learn from this experience? And, you know, for a long time, I had a real problem with failure because I'm a really big perfectionist, and that held me back. And, you know, in society, unfortunately, we view failure as a negative so often. So it's been a process for me, honestly, to be more accustomed and more comfortable with failure. And if you're not, it makes life, for me, it was extremely challenging. I had to just be okay with not everything is going to work out. Not everything is going to succeed, and you're going to have some bumps, you know. And I know it sounds easy to say that, but when I am such a perfectionist, I was, you know, my own worst enemy, very, very self-critical. That tape recorder in my head would just go off, and I'd engage with it. Now, when it goes off, I say, I see you. And I'm not going to engage with that anymore, you know? And who cares if this didn't work? This is just part of life. So if that answers your question, I know that was long-winded, but sort of gives you a little bit of my journey.
Well, actually, it does share some very, very important points. I was also an entrepreneur mom. I raised 4 daughters, and I worked from home. And I did a custom interiors business. So I was like building things, and, you know, I found that, that mindset of growth and what you're doing here by trusting and creating awareness is that it really empowered my children to also grow. It empowered me to be okay with not less than perfect, but what is perfect anyway, you know? The rest, I view it more like now, not then, but now, as either it's a growth or it's a celebration, right? So it's either or, and usually both are combined to make such a beautiful experience if we're willing to be open to that growth mindset that you're talking about here. Yeah.
And I think too, just on the growth mindset thing, it is kind of interesting, you know, when you think about IQs and things like that. Some people think, you know, my IQ is my IQ, that's never going to change. But the reality is that, of course, it can change. Of course, you can improve, and it's a willingness to want to make things better, and an awareness that things are possible, so.
Yeah, very much so. I'm going to take a quick moment for a break because it's time. And I want people to know where they can find you. We're going to talk a little bit more about what you do as we get into our discussion after the break. But Anna, where can people find you?
Well, you could very easily connect with me on Facebook, Anna E. Nummy. You can also connect with me, my website, alignlocal.com, and then lastly, LinkedIn. I'm there. I hang out, so you could find me there too.
Great. And we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk with Anna about the autonomy of a woman and then tie in her business and what she does to assist others in their businesses. So stay with us. This is Laura Greco from SuperPower Mommas, and you're listening to the topic of what does entrepreneur mean as a mama? Be right back.
Are you here to change the world? Do you talk about things like vibration, frequency, awakening, and consciousness? Are you pretty sure you have superpowers? The SuperPower Net is unlike normal coaching programs and conscious communities. We provide training, intuitive guidance, peer-to-peer learning, intensive one-on-one coaching, and a high vibrational network of people just like you. When you join the net, you get 24/7 access to a collaborative group of people who support you as you master your personal power and unlock your superpowers. If you're ready to use your superpowers to change the world, then join the SuperPower Net today. Visit superpowerexperts.com/thenet to learn more.
Thank you for sticking with us. We're back. I'm Laura Greco, and this is SuperPower Mommas, and we have Anna with us, and we are talking on the topic of what does entrepreneur mean as a mom? So, Anna, here we go. You started out in we'll just do a little history here. You started out in a totally different business, right? You want to talk a little bit about your journey from here to where you are now? Okay.
Sure. Well, my undergraduate degree is from Michigan State University, and I had a biochem, biotech background, and I worked in a couple of, private company and then a public company, and I was working on cellular development, and I know people think those things are very different. However, science and marketing are very similar in that you have this mantra of test, measure, and repeat. And so while it seems like a complete huge shift in some ways, principally based, it's very similar. So I was very comfortable with the transition. Of course, it's extremely challenging to do something on your own, but in terms of similarities, there's a lot of overlap that people might not necessarily see right away. So,
and that's great. And so, what? I'll just ask this question: what did you have children when you decided to begin this business that you're in now? And what really spawned this whole thing for you?
Yeah. Well, I don't think I realized it 100% at the time. So I had my first son, Ian, when I was, of course, still working that job. And, I had to go back because of financial reasons. I had to go back when he was still pretty tiny, and that was hard. And I just felt like, I would love to spend more time with my child after birth, because I was a nursing mom, and doing the whole pumping thing was, a pain. And I just, I liked that connection with my little guy, right? So I really wanted to have a little bit more ability to prioritize my family, and I wanted more autonomy. The other thing I don't think I totally realized then, but you can clearly see now, is that working for someone else, I would never realize my full potential. And so this challenge of being my own business owner has been incredibly important for my own personal development. And I believe is teaching me several lessons that are going to help me fulfill my full potential, which is to bless other people's lives, of course, and to make an impact on them and so on. And that just would not have been possible if I would have stuck in a job working for someone else. So.
And you talk here also in your bio a little bit about the, I forgot the name of it, Tinkergarten?
Yes, Tinkergarten. Yes, this is absolutely something that would have been much more challenging for me to pursue if I didn't have flexibility of make my own schedule. So basically, Tinkergarten is an organization that's all across the U.S. right now, and it's an organization that encourages outdoor play. Basically, it brings children into an environment where they learn best, which is through play. And then that's outdoors, right? So there's no walls. And one of the fun things they like to remind people is you can't bounce off walls if there aren't any. And, the reality is children today do not have as much outdoor time as even I did as a child. And that's detrimental. There are so many, benefits that we've even measured in science, right? To being outdoors, from reduced anxiety and stress to better stewardship and appreciation. And so, I wanted to participate in impacting children somehow. And this just seemed like the next best step for me. I don't know where I'll be in a couple of years, but I feel especially connected to children and making a difference with them. And this just seemed to fit in line with that. So I became a leader, and I'll be starting my first winter classes here in Michigan. I believe I have some free trial classes in January, but the classes start in February. So
fun. That sounds really fun. Oh my goodness. I never heard of Tinkergarten, so this is very exciting, and I'm wondering how many of our listeners have listened to, or know about this. So,
well, and I mentioned at the beginning that I wouldn't be where I am, at least at this, as far as I am without my tribe. And I actually learned about Tinkergarten from Isabel Hunt, who I'm sure you're familiar with.
Oh yeah, she's been on the show.
Yeah. So she and I have just connected online. I've never met her in person. She's down in Indiana, and she told me about it. So, it's an awesome spider web of opportunities that appear because of community.
Yes. And networking together. Very supportive. And so on that note, you already touched a little bit on this, but I'd like to just zero in on it a little more. You touched on the topic of autonomy. And I wanted to ask you, how does your superpower assist you in maintaining your own autonomy? And how does that help both you and your children and others?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I would say so, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with being your own business owner. And especially when you're starting out, you're doing all the things. I'm still in a startup phase. I've been in business for roughly 3 years, and I've been doing it full time since Abraham, just the month before Abraham was born. So almost 2 years on that. And I would say that my grit and my growth mindset are complement a need for autonomy very well. So how it assists me in my autonomy and with other people, I'm not 100% sure how to answer that question, but I will say that I think, people lead by example. And I know, like, I've had people message me that I'm in, Facebook groups that I'm in, that they're like, I watch your journey, and I don't even feel like I'm out there very much. I'm not a very public feature, but there'll be something that I say or that I've done that they relate to that touches them. And I know that in some way, even ways that I don't understand, I'm impacting people as an example of what's possible. When we do take things into our own hands and we do decide to do certain things, and entrepreneurship isn't for everybody, and that's okay, because you can still make your impact in a way that's really important, whether you're self-employed or not. So I would say that in some ways, I don't think I understand exactly how I impact everybody, but I will say also, I appreciate hearing that, because, that maybe have come at a time that was really hard for me, and just to hear that little thank you for sharing some of your struggle and being authentic about how hard that was really helped me, so.
Yeah. And as I'm listening to you, it brings to mind some things I've discussed with other clients too. And that is, when you follow your heart, you actually are shining. And when you shine, people love to be with that, and they see a path to grow in, right? So that goes for the people that you are witnessing, the feedback from Facebook and so forth. And your children get to have a happy environment because you're happy.
Yeah.
So whether that means an entrepreneurship, or whether that means, that you go to a job, or whether that means you're a stay-at-home mom, or work-from-home mom, whatever that is, the most important thing that I see, and you brought this out actually very beautifully, is that when you're following your own heart, your own purpose, your own mission, you're filling your soul, you have so much to give to others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And without a full bucket, you cannot give. So
yes, absolutely.
So,
and I will say self-care, speaking of full buckets,
yes,
because I am so extremely driven. I'm a very, very driven person.
Mm-hmm.
And it is still a challenge for me to fill up my bucket sometimes. And but eventually your body lets you know. And then you're like, okay, well, time to pay attention. So I still have those challenges, and I still have to, there's always room for improvement on that. And having more balance with that this year is definitely one of my priorities, because I don't want to end up in a situation where I'm really burned out,
Exactly. And true to the point, it's a never ending adjustment in life, because circumstances change, lifestyle changes, things happen. So there's a constant fishing for that balance, right? However, in growing up in our society and our culture, we teach our children to brush their teeth, to get their rest, to, do all the physical things. And yet, even us as young people, how often were we taught to really listen to our own hearts and really take care of our spirituality in a way that's personal between us and our Creator, and get to know who we are. So the more moms that are able to do this for themselves and then demonstrate that and teach that to their children by example, even, what a blessing it is to the children coming up the pike.
Yes, absolutely. And I will say that my mom was, I'm my mother's daughter in some ways. She was also very selfless, but probably to a point that was probably not very beneficial or healthy to her, So, so it's nice to be a part of having a little bit more awareness about that and the impact that I can have on my kids. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like hygiene, right? Hygiene that we do on the outside, we also want to remember it for the inside.
Absolutely.
Inside job. Very nice. So in your work, do you work with an array of clients?
I do.
You mostly with moms, or you have other?
Yeah, well, I would say that in general, my ideal client is someone who's a small to medium-sized business who's ready for growth. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of different services, so it really depends on their need. But ultimately, my goal is to create customer opportunities for them and to help them essentially build a pipeline so that they can get out of the whole feast and famine mode that so many businesses run into. Even if there's a seasonality to their business, you can soften that seasonality by, implementing systems and processes and helping support long-term growth. So I work with a lot of local businesses. I mean, anything from restaurants and chiropractors, insurance agents, real estate agents, mortgage people, right? So a lot of different industries. And, the small mom and pop shop, maybe if they're transitioning from mom and dad to the sons, and they've been doing a lot of the old school marketing and it's time to freshen that up, right? That's an ideal client too, because they need someone to help them understand what makes the most sense for them. And really, I look at myself as a problem solver. So you come to me, we discuss what are your challenges in your business right now, and what can we do to improve that? So,
Very cool. Do you see so this work you're doing, of course, there's always that greater why, right? That greater reason for doing it. What is that? What is that for you?
Yeah, well, I mentioned before that I have a heart for children, especially boys, and I don't know, and it's funny, I have 2 boys now, but that was even true before I had my second son. But I think that I don't have it fully defined, right? I'm continually exploring, and I mentioned that Tinkergarten just seemed like the next right move for me, so that's what I was going to do, and we'll see what other opportunities open up to me and what my experiences form in terms of my path. But I will say that I find it troubling some of the I guess you could say the sort of male bashing kinds of things that happen, especially now that I do have 2 boys. And I feel like in our society, there's no real ritual of manhood. And what does it mean to be a man? And, and masculinity. And we need, of course, fathers to be examples. And it is somewhat ironic, perhaps, that I'm a woman and I'm interested in doing this work. But I believe that my mission has something to do with impacting what it means to be a man and helping boys understand what that means. And that includes, of course, being in touch with their emotional side, and not ignoring it, and not, there can be ridicule for that sort of thing, because it's not manly or whatever. And so I believe that in some ways I'm going to be part of that shift of that understanding of loving the whole and understanding that you can't be a man without, of course, the emotional and sensitivity aspects. So I don't know if that, so in terms of specifics, that is probably as specific as it is right now. What that looks like for me in a couple years down the road, I don't know. We'll see. So.
Well, I'm very inspired by what you say here, Anna, because in my work of working with moms, it might appear as though I'm mostly focused on the female. But really, my mission is to create an experience where moms really feel good about themselves and their direction so that they can be available to both their sons and daughters. Because I feel like a mom who's feeling empowered is going to have the ability to look outside herself and see what's best. The pendulum swings in the big consciousness, right? So it's swinging in one direction right now, and that's fine. Eventually it'll level out. But I believe that, the mothers are the ones mostly with the children in that capacity. And the fathers, of course, have a very interesting role in this whole thing. And the more that women can figure out their way through it, I feel that will really support the balance. So I love that you shared that component, and that's so great that it's in your heart. And that awareness right off the start is so important. So out of all that we've discussed today, Anna, what is the one point that you would like to leave with our moms today?
Well, I've touched on a little bit of my entrepreneurship journey in general, and how that it's been so incredibly important for my personal development and my personal growth. And I'll say that the failure piece and being okay with that has been hugely important for me. And I struggled for a very long time in my business. And I even, had a fair amount of self-sabotage in there. Mm-hmm. Things would start to go well, and then it was too good to be true or whatever. And I would stop doing the things that I needed to do to grow my business because I didn't feel that I deserved it or whatever, So I would say that the real shift for me was really just in October of this last year, so fairly recently, where I just decided to stop engaging with that tape recorder, the broken tape recorder in my head. Mm. And so many people get caught up in that. It's very easy to do because, we've had this since however long. But I think the most important thing to do is to realize that it's not you and to develop an awareness about it so that you can stop it in its tracks. And the reason I share that is because it was holding me back so much from doing what I needed to do and to believing in myself and knowing that I can do all the things. And now I feel like I'm on this precipice where, finally things are about to really take off. And as I mentioned, I've been doing this for almost 3 years now.
Yes.
So it took me, I was very willing to do the personal development, and it still took me a fair amount of time to get to that point where I really understood that it's a matter of deciding to not engage with that and to know, it's not me, that voice, it's not me, So I wanted to share that because I don't think people you just have to decide. You have to make the decision you're not going to engage with that. And that's going to be the thing, at least it was for me, that really helped me make the change that I needed to make and to give me the confidence to do what I want to do so that I can make a greater impact on people. Because, great, money is a tool. Well, I need that to pay my bills, okay? Yeah. And if I'm sabotaging myself, I'm not going to be able to make an impact with other people either, right? So anyway, that's what I would say. I'd hit the hammer on that one.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing yourself and all the information and the experience, basically, that you have shared with us today. Anna, where can people find you again?
Yeah, so absolutely connect with me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Anna E. Nummy, or on LinkedIn. And of course, you can reach me on my website, which is alignlocal.com, ALIGNLOCAL. Thank you so much, Laura, for having me today. It was so much fun.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so happy that you came and shared your wealth of wisdom. Really, really beautiful. And I want to thank every listener who's here listening to our show. I'm so excited to have this come to you. I want to remind you, mamas, that to love yourselves for the treasure that you are. You already have what it takes. And every big change starts in our own hearts. And from there we create what we want. So own your superpowers and go out and be you. Until next time, I'm Laura Greco, SuperPower Mom.
Are you ready to discover your superpowers? Go now to superpowerexperts.com and take the Superpower Quiz today.